So what's the exact moment the peak becomes the break? It's small. It's when your certainty stops softening you and starts hardening you. A friend suggests a nap, and you feel insulted. A partner asks about bills, and you hear betrayal. You stop testing your revelations against simple reality. You stop letting the kitchen timer decide when tea is ready, because time feels optional now. From the outside, you look radiant and a little brittle. From the inside, you feel like you're standing on a narrow ridge with perfect air and a long drop on either side. It's exhilarating. It's also the first step into stage 1 of collapse, overwhelm and disintegration. The high doesn't last. Biology never lets it. Stage 1, overwhelm and disintegration. This is where the music turns into static. The glow is still there in flashes, but the system carrying it starts to fray. You wake to light that feels too bright and a room that feels too near. The dishes glare. The phone hums like it's breathing. You mean to brush your teeth and find yourself staring at the bristles for a full minute, unsure which movement comes first. Panic doesn't announce itself, it seeps. Your body is a dial stuck on too much. Flow note. From here forward, we'll keep the language plain. What's happening in your body, what it feels like, and what helps. So you can actually use this when it's 3 a.m. stakes show up in small humiliations. You forget your PIN at the grocery store. You stand in the shower, trying to remember if you already washed your hair. Inbox piles up with, just checking on this. And you feel both guilty and convinced those emails are coded transmissions. Identity, which used to be an ordinary background hum. Your name, your job, your role in the family, blurs like handwriting in the rain. Where do you end? Which part of you answers? Action locks into a loop. Sensory flooding, then desperate meaning-making to tame it. A car backfires and adrenaline slams through your ribs. You check the time, see 11:11, and decide the blast was a message. You scroll until 3 a.m. connecting symbols across news headlines and street signs. A neighbor's dog barks 3 times. You write 3s are gateways in a notebook. Synchronicities multiply because your attention tags them. The tagging feels like safety. It's not. Meanwhile, basic systems falter. Sleep is stringy, 20 minutes here, 40 there. Appetite swings from nothing to sugar raids. Money tasks slide. Autopay fails because you meant to switch cards and never finished. You start dodging calls, then texts, because words feel heavy in your mouth, and you can't explain why you're crying while boiling pasta. Friends ping, you mute threads. Social withdrawal sneaks in wearing the costume of needing quiet. Underneath, there's a mechanism you can feel but not name. The brain's salience network, those circuits that decide what matters, has gone wide open. It's overtagging. Predictive coding, the brain's way of guessing first and updating later, runs hot. You guess that songs on shuffle are tailored to you. Then you hear your own name in a chorus that never said it. This isn't stupidity. It's a stressed system preferring patterns to randomness. The cost is reality testing. You stop checking guesses against boring facts. Here's the trickiest part. The overwhelm masquerades as progress. Teachers online talk about ascension symptoms: tingling, dizziness, insomnia. You read a list and exhale with relief. It's normal. That relief is sticky. It tells you to spiritualize what's essentially nervous system dysregulation. You start treating palpitations as heart opening, the inability to focus as veil thinning, the mounting dread as ego death. Reframing can reduce shame. It can also block help. You pour lavender on a house fire. Microstories sharpen it. A college student lights incense at dawn to hold frequency, then stands frozen at her sink for 2 hours, convinced if she blinks too hard she'll fall out of her body. A chef hears a lyric about home, while chopping onions, and bursts into tears, certain it's a signal to quit and move to a monastery. He doesn't show up for his shift and tells himself the universe will handle rent. It doesn't. The body keeps a relentless score. Cortisol stays high, so startle responses jump. Shoulders hitch up, jaw clamps down. You try breath work the way you did on retreat and accidentally spike arousal further. Quick inhales fueling the same fire. Coffee, which used to be routine, now feels like being tasered. You learn that the hard way after a double espresso that turns a bright afternoon into a crawlspace of dread. Relationships absorb the blast. Partners feel like they're losing you to a world they can't see. They ask simple questions you hear as attempts to pull you down. You answer with metaphors and silence. Can you pick up the package? Lands on your nervous system like an attack. You're not hostile, you're flooded. But flooded looks like hostile. Meanwhile, financial and work neglect snowball. You miss a deadline, then 2, Then stop checking the project portal, because each click feels like stepping under cold waterfalls. Your manager offers a meeting. You decline because, I need to protect my energy. The policy doesn't speak that language. You get a warning you interpret as a test from the universe. It's just HR. What nobody knew at the time, what you can only see later, is how the smallest anchors could have slowed the disintegration. 8 hours of dark, 3 real meals, 15 minutes of sunlight on your eyelids before noon. One friend who isn't impressed by your revelations and asks about laundry. Those aren't low vibration traps, they're ballast. Without ballast, the boat spins. And the shame. As function erodes, shame blooms. You start hiding symptoms inside lofty talk. You promise yourself you'll catch up tomorrow, but tomorrow is a maze. You write long notes to yourself at 4 a.m. about purpose, then wake at 10 with a crusted mouth and no plan. You pray, then scroll, then cry, then promise again. The promises are sincere. Biology doesn't care. This is where certainty flips into terror. The same conviction that made coincidences feel holy now turns on you. You begin to suspect the signs are warning you. You replay every moment of the last week looking for what you missed. Hypervigilance wakes up. Every creak is a code. Every siren is about you. You lock the door twice, then thrice, then stop inviting anyone in. As the nervous system fries, the world shrinks to a tunnel, and stage 2 waits in that darkness with its hand out. Stage 2, when wonder turns to threat. This is the turn where light becomes crosshairs. Trust thins first. You start scanning the faces you used to relax around and see angles. A friend's pause on the phone feels loaded. Your partner's sigh is a code. Institutions, HR clinics, even urgent care, look like traps designed to file you under something you'll never escape. Safety isn't out there anymore. It's a narrow lane inside your own head. The stakes climb because this shift rearranges your world map. If friends aren't safe, you stop asking for rides, meals, perspective. If hospitals are predatory, you won't let anyone check the basics. Sleep debt, vitals, hydration meds. A fall now doesn't just bruise, it isolates. And isolation is gasoline on a nervous system that already runs hot. Action tightens around misreading cues. You're at the window and a neighbor looks up. Neutral face, no story. Your chest grabs anyway. Thought-action fusion sneaks in. Thinking about danger feels the same as causing it or preventing it. You ritualize small moves to control big fears. Tap the doorframe 3 times before opening. Rewrite texts until they carry the right frequency. Avoid cracks on the sidewalk, because last time you stepped on one your heart skipped. Conspiracy blends with mysticism. You hear a podcast about data tracking and fold it into a cosmology. Algorithms are harvesters of soul energy. The grocery store scanners are portals. Your phone camera is an eye with intent. Meanwhile, you try to obey contradictory commands. Teachers online say, surrender more. Your body says, barricade. So you do both. Meditate for hours, then duct tape your webcam. Chant mantras, then unplug the router. Fast to purify, then stash canned beans behind the towels. Each action brings a blink of relief. The relief fades. The loop deepens. Conflict shows up at the door. Partners stop speaking in metaphors because rent is due. You hear urgency as aggression. They suggest seeing a clinician. You hear betrayal. You push back with conviction that sounds like clarity. Western medicine doesn't understand what's happening. And they flinch because the eyes they knew aren't landing on them. Family tries gentle limit setting. You block them. A friend who once sat with you for hours texts, I'm worried. And you read, I'm judging. You start pruning your contacts down to whoever echoes your frame. It shrinks you. Impact arrives fast when support is severed. You skip appointments because the timing feels off. Bills stack into red banners you refuse to open. Function drops. Another rung, but now there's no one inside the circle with leverage. Decompensation accelerates. Sleep fragments, appetite blunts, memory slides, and each slip is framed as a sign you're crossing thresholds. The narrative protects dignity. It also hides risk. Underneath the story, your body is doing threat mode. Hypervigilance turns up the danger dial. Stress hormones plus no sleep make the brain tag neutral stuff as hostile. Feeling cornered makes the fear center louder and the planning center quieter. You start searching only for confirming data and avoiding anything that might prove you wrong. Certainty hardens, not because it's true, but because nothing contradictory gets in the room. Here's the spiritual trap that looks wise from inside the fear. A teacher reframes everything as a test. Darkness arises to be cleared, they say. Increase practice. Cut contact with low vibration. On a stable day, containment can help. In acute fear, doubling down amplifies arousal. More fasting, more breath holds, more silence. Each is sold as purification. Each strips another stabilizer. The body needed salt and sleep. It got ideology. Micro-stories anchor the pattern. A man convinced that numbers are maps sees 911 on a microwave and decides the ambulance is for him. He lies on the floor to avoid windows. When his sister calls, he whispers because sound attracts entities. No one comes over because he told them not to. Another woman, blessed by a guru via livestream, stops answering her boss and spends 12 hours tracing energy in her palms. When the wellness check knocks, she hides in the closet and texts a mentor. They're agents. The mentor replies, "Stay in your power," and she takes it as instruction to wait the officers out. They leave. So does her paycheck. What nobody knew at the time is how small, concrete checks could have slowed the spin. A thermometer and a dark room. One meal prepped by someone else. 2 nights of sedated sleep supervised by a clinician who uses plain language and doesn't debate karma. The nervous system needed fewer inputs and stronger anchors. It got cosmic framing. You start blocking care in clever ways. I'll go after the full moon. My body is detoxing hospitals. My intuition says my sleep will correct naturally. Maybe later. Not this week. You unsubscribe from reminders. You switch phones. You set your voicemail to full. Trust evaporates to the point where you test people by feeding them partial truths. If they push back, they're out. If they nod, they're in. The in people encourage practices that make you sicker. The out people stop knocking. That's how the circle tightens to a single seat. In the aftermath of a few near misses, almost setting a burner under a towel, almost walking into traffic because the don't walk hand looked like a blessing, you feel the first chill of collapse. Your rituals aren't containing it. Your explanations feel thin even to you. The panic no longer spikes. It seeps, then pools. Cut off from help, the collapse doesn't just continue, it becomes the climate. Stage 3 waits with the bill. Stage 3, the floor drops. Life stops working. This is where the floor drops. The tunnel you've been walking narrows into a crawl space, then into a pinhole. Function doesn't wobble now. It fails. The rent portal times out because you can't track the 2-step verification. You open the fridge and stare. The word eat is there. The sequence isn't. You catch yourself standing in the doorway between rooms, unsure why you moved. Stakes are concrete and immediate. Job loss isn't a threat. It's an email with a subject line that starts "We regret." Financial freefall follows simple math. Missed shifts, late fees, accounts on hold, a parent's credit card stretched to its last inch. Hospitalization shifts from a story other people warn you about to a paramedic's boots in your hallway because a neighbor heard banging and silence. Legal scares arrive in plain envelopes. Welfare checks documented. An eviction notice taped at eye level. The body, pushed past alarms, flips between frenzy and freeze. Psychomotor agitation looks like pacing until your calves burn, tearing open a drawer and then another, hands shaking with a mission you can't name. Freeze looks like lying on the floor for hours, eyes open, breath shallow. The ceiling fan assigning you tests you keep failing. Your mind splits its own screen. Part of you narrates in grand terms, part of you slides out of the room. Dissociation washes in and out. Depersonalization and derealization make your hands look like props and your street like a set. You want to come back. You don't know where back is. Risk goes up because judgment goes down. You walk 3 miles at 2 a.m. in socks because the sidewalk feels magnetic. You DM a stranger your address because they posted an angel number. You light candles on the floor and forget the curtain is flirting with flame. Someone pounds on the door. You don't move because your rules say don't open to hostile frequencies. The room smells sweet and dangerous. Impact lands in waves. After 4 nights of shattered sleep, your thoughts begin to bite. They don't announce themselves as suicidal. They present as relief math. Remove yourself, remove the storm. Shame floods in behind them. What kind of spiritual person thinks like this? And the shame itself becomes fuel. You start bargaining with fate. If the clock hits 3:33, I stay. It doesn't. You cry so hard your face aches. You consider pills, a bridge, a bathtub. Then the sun pushes a stripe of light onto the wall, and you remember you haven't had water. While that's happening, the medical system can misroute you. You hit urgent care in sunglasses and talk about energy. A rushed clinician hears voices and checks the psychosis box, missing the sleep collapse and stimulant load. Another listens kindly and calls it grief, missing the risk. In the ER, a resident asks if you use meth. You shake your head. He orders labs, offers an antipsychotic, and no one speaks the word sleep like it's a procedure. You leave with a printout that says follow up with primary in 5 to 7 days. Time at this altitude stretches like plastic wrap. Underneath the chaos, the mechanism is simple and brutal. Stress overload. Your system has been paying stress debt with interest. Cortisol keeps the alarm on. Adrenaline keeps the legs moving. The planning part of your brain, starved of rest and steady blood sugar, loses grip on sequence and self-control. The boring muscles that hold life together, planning, remembering, shifting tasks, go offline. If you wrote it down, it exists. If you didn't, it disappears. This is the hinge the story balances on. Either a stabilizing anchor arrives, or damage compounds. Anchors aren't revelations, they're interventions. A sister who shows up with calm eyes and no metaphysics, who says, "We're turning off candles now," and stands there while you do it. A clinician who speaks to your dignity and your risk in the same sentence. I believe you had a profound experience, and tonight we're going to get you 8 hours of sleep safely. A short course of medication used on purpose, not as punishment. Something to sedate, something to take the edge off threat detection. A plan to reassess in daylight. A sleep plan treated like surgery. Dark room, device off. Someone staying in the next room. Food that has salt. Micro stories show the pivot. A barista in freefall is fired at noon, wanders until dusk, and texts a meditation teacher who replies with a prayer hands emoji. He pockets his phone, heads for the overpass. A co-worker who noticed he'd stopped joking, drives his usual route home, spots him leaning, pulls over, and says, "Hey man, come sit with me. Let's breathe and call my aunt, she's a nurse." That detour buys a night of sedated sleep, a safety plan, and a place on a couch. The overpass waits for other people. Not him, not that night. Most people don't get that anchor, because systems fail in predictable ways. Spiritual communities romanticize the breakdown, call it purification, tell you to double practice while your sodium is low and your sleep is wrecked. Clinical systems, pressed for time, strip the meaning and miss the person, or they send you home with a pamphlet and a phone number you won't call. Family, exhausted and scared, switches to argument, which your nervous system hears as proof you're alone. The collapse doesn't mean there's no way back. It means the way back starts with physiology. Salt, water, darkness, quiet, a hand on the doorknob saying, "We're getting help now," and not letting go. Then, when the alarm quiets, the larger frame can return without swallowing you. But right here, at the bottom, the story waits for the hard question. Who will be the anchor? And will you accept them? The betrayal, when spiritual communities miss the crisis. While he's spiraling, the first place many turn isn't a clinic. It's the Sangha, the church basement, the yoga group chat. They arrive trembling and sleep-starved, speaking in metaphors, and are met with nods, incense, and reassurance that this is purification. That word soothes shame and quietly magnifies risk. When collapse looks like progress, nobody reaches for salt, sleep, and supervision. They reach for more practice. Romanticization is the first trap. Teachers tell stories of saints who wandered deserts and burned karma through nights without food or rest. That mythology sells breakdown as a rite. A woman shows up shaking, says the ceiling hums with messages, and someone smiles. The serpent is rising. She goes home convinced the terror is sacred. She also leaves without a sleep plan. Then comes the competence gap. Many leaders are sincere, wise in meaning, and untrained in physiology. They don't screen for mania vulnerability or trauma activation. They don't check blood pressure, ask about caffeine, or know when to say, "We need a doctor tonight." A retreat assistant notices a participant hasn't slept in 3 days and offers longer sits. Not lorazepam consults or a dark room with watchful company. Not because they're cruel, because no one taught them what acute means in a nervous system. Harmful advice lands wearing spiritual language. More fasting, more silence. Cut contact with low-vibration family. Unplug news, but also reject clinicians as third-dimensional. The logic is airtight inside the frame. Protect the awakening from interference. In practice, it strips stabilizers. Food becomes impurity instead of glucose. Connection becomes contamination instead of regulation. A man already scanning for threat is told to isolate to keep his field clean. His field gets louder. Accountability slides through fingers. If a student deteriorates, the system reframes harm as resistance. She's purging lifetimes. His ego is fighting. That move keeps the teacher right and the student alone. It also erases red flags. Pressured speech is Shakti flow. Grandiosity is remembering your mission. Misperceptions are piercing the veil. Once everything is an initiation, nothing is a contraindication. Missed red flags are everywhere in this crucible. Mania, decreased need for sleep, impulsive spending, expansive plans, recast as quantum alignment. Psychosis, ideas of reference, voices braided with meaning, recast as guides arriving. Trauma reactivation, flashbacks, hyperarousal, recast as Kundalini clearing blocks. The names aren't the point, the interventions are. A name that blocks sleep, nutrition, and medication when indicated is a bad name, whatever tradition it comes from. Micro-stories make the failure plain. A meditator on day 8 of retreat reports that her hands are buzzing and the walls breathe. The facilitator, kind and undertrained, invites her to sit through it. She hasn't eaten since breakfast. She hasn't slept. By midnight, she's pacing in the parking lot, whispering to a lamppost. No one calls her emergency contact. They fear medicalizing. At dawn, she's in a taxi, alone, convinced the driver is an angel who will take her beyond the grid. He drops her at her apartment. She doesn't remember the code. Another, a charismatic mentor, tells a young man to hold the frequency by stopping all media, family, and dense employment. He quits his job, blocks his sister, and spends 10 days tracking numbers on clocks. When panic rises, the mentor texts, "It's a test." He passes nothing. His landlord posts a notice. The mentor posts a quote card about surrender. What nobody in these rooms names clearly is risk. Not cosmic risk. Concrete risk. Sleep loss past 48 hours changes cognition. Stimulants, including green tea and cacao, can drive arousal higher. Breath work with long retentions, done in collapse, spikes CO2 swings and threat detection. Open more is gasoline when the system is already flooded. There's also a structural reason communities miss it. Incentives. Admitting harm fractures the brand. Saying, "We need psychiatric support," sounds like betrayal of the path. Leaders fear losing authority to people in scrubs. So they keep it in-house, even when in-house is a bookshelf and a YouTube playlist. We can honor the depth and still tell the truth. Crises need protocols. Communities can carry meaning. They cannot replace risk screens, sleep restoration, or safety plans. A competent path sets boundaries in acute phases. No metaphysical debates, no fasting, no marathon sits. It builds bridges to clinicians who won't mock the experience. It trains volunteers to ask 3 questions.